It's Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we take that midweek break when we sit back, relax, and just kind of talk about the Linux stuff that we personally find interesting, and we kind of hope maybe you dig it as well. Maybe we even run across something that is kind of neat, borderline cool. But let's see, what's going on this week? Well, one of the things we're going to be chatting about is WPS Office. Do you remember that? No? Don't feel bad. No one else does either, but they have a brand new release, and our good friends at SUSE, they're going to attempt to make XFCE all the pretties, which makes me wonder, since Unity's been kind of forked, maybe they'll attempt to make it usable.
Ooh. No, well, there's a new version of Debian stable, which for a little while means I can't really call it stale, and a South Korean web hosting company got ransomwared. And in their infinite wisdom, they decided to pay said ransom.
That's a brilliant plan that works 100% of the time, 90% of the time, isn't it? No.
60% of the time, it works 100% of the time.
Yeah, sounds like nightmare fuel. Okay, and joining us live, that's everyone in Shadow Realm Dynamic. It's kind of brilliant. Let's just get right into this business with the Debian 9 stretching out.
Yep, they stretched all right, and the new version has been released. It was released on June 17th, and they say after 26 months of development, the Debian project is proud to present its new stable version, 9, codenamed Stretch. And they bring a couple of new things. They have replaced MySQL with MariaDB. They have the 4.9 kernel, Firefox ESR 45.9, Chromium 59, KDE 5.8 LTS, Mate 1.16, and XFCE 4.12.
Oh, that sounds brilliant. All that sounds brilliant, but how many people are running Debian 9 stable that are not running it as a headless box?
Very few, but there are, every now and again, we'll see that person in the Steam forums usually, I am running Debian and this and that. So they exist. There's not many of them, but they exist. So yeah, this is Debian for the past 2 years have been trying to get things up and running for this release, and they say it should be a painless update for people who are already running other Debian versions. And there was one thing that kind of called my attention, which was administrators and those in security-sensitive environments can be comforted in the knowledge that the X-Display system no longer requires root privileges to run. Why was this still a thing?
Hey, man, don't worry about it. Look over there. Punch the monkey. A couple of things they've thrown into this business. Iceweasel, iStov. They're going to be replaced by Firefox and Thunder Chicken. It's going to be brilliant. Apologies for the one person who wrote in. It was like, yo, I use Iceweasel. That's the thing. The Debian Live images, they now include support for that newfangled UEFI, and you can boot with them. It's got that going for it, man. And it's installable in 75 languages. And something that did give me a little bit of a laugh, Pedro, was one of the packages that was updated. It was like, we now support XFCE 4.12. And I was like, on a technicality, that is the latest version, but only because it's XFCE.
Yeah, you still need to use the PPA if you want access to 4.14. But yeah. That's the new Debian. It's business as usual as far as Linux goes. It's a new Debian stable. So for now, I can't call it stale.
Okay, coming up next, man, we're going to talk about that WPS Office thing. Yeah, it's out. From OMG Ubuntu. You can find all this in the show notes. If you're listening, head over to linuxgamecast.com. Weird place to host a shut. But it's a thing. They've added WPS Office for Linux room, Okay, all these things, man. After asking around, Pedro, people just, on G Plus and just text and stuff like that. It's like, hey, has anyone heard between, what's this WPS thing? And it was a 50-50 split between, I thought that project was canceled. And what's that? And
fair enough. Well, WPS Office, their big selling point over LibreOffice, even back when they used to be called Kingsoft Office, was the better compatibility between Microsoft Office documents and, rather than what LibreOffice offered at the time. Of course, nowadays, I don't really know if that still holds up because I remember trying Kingsoft Office all the way back then, and I never even started WPS Office. And I remember last year, there was something in the news that said that WPS Office 2016, this version that is currently available for Linux, did a little something that wasn't very good. If you got the free version, you tried to export your document into a PDF, or you tried to print said document from inside WPS Office, you would get a little watermark on your documents. Yeah, that was bad. So people started to complain, and then they changed it. And now, I don't know if that's the case with the Linux version specifically, but if you want to unlock those features, because they're not available by default on the free version, you can unlock them for 30 minutes if you watch an ad.
All right. So,
yeah.
A, just use LibreOffice. B, if you've already sold your soul to the Google Docs, as we'll use for the show, then no. That's definitely the thing. But, this is the same project, which they did a good job of covering. I thought I was going to have to go dig this up. But they tweeted, it was last year, that this project was, in fact, going open source. Then they deleted the tweet. They deleted that tweet. And, of course, it's the internet. What happened? Streisand effect invoked. Everyone had the screenshots and all the fun stuff. That was definitely a thing. But the beautiful, sweet part of this was then this company turned around and started blaming blogs and news sites for spreading fake news that they never said it was going open source in the face of the screenshots. And I guess maybe they just edited the screenshots to say that, because that's totally something they would do, isn't it? Yeah, they were. Everyone's out to get them, right? They're the victim, Pedro. Clearly,
yeah,
so
totally.
Short story long, ladies and gentlemen. If you're using WPS Office, stop.
Please stop.
But something you might consider using is Vivaldi, which you are currently viewing right now. Know it or not, we use it for the web browsing for the show, but they got a new version out, man. It's got a couple of new things. 1.10, nothing major. I mean, you can finally dock developer tools. I think it's on their website right here. Previously, that's going to pop up in a new window. I'm just glad that's a thing, just because it was a smidge annoying. Again, we reported on this, that this was coming. You can sort downloads for the nobody who uses a download manager in their browser. Yep. We look forward to your feedback on that one next week. And a few quick command improvements for those of you who suffer from musophobia, which is the fear of mice. If you want to use the browser completely from your keyboard, which is neat. Again, people, if you don't know any browser that you have open, Control-L. Do it. If you don't know what that command does, just do that and go, ooh, neat.
Ooh, neat.
I like Vivaldi. Not a huge, nothing game-changing in this version, but again, once you... It's kind of weird. I guess you do have to do something strange in 2017 to differentiate yourself from everyone else. And they're like, but we're the start page. And we get the first thing anyone does, Vivaldi, is cut all that off.
What's that start page? Google.com? Sure.
Right. It's based on Chromium. It's a good way to have another version of Chromium running. That's about it. And that's what it's good for. It works. I like it. Good project. Keep it up. Do you get any thoughts on this, or have you ran out and downloaded it and given it the business?
I am running it right now. In fact, the return video that you can see, it's going through Vivaldi. So they did fix a couple of Linux issues, which were the rocker gestures that didn't work consistently if you disabled allow gestures. I guess it makes sense.
Okay.
And UI context menus did not show up on long touch if you were using a touchscreen or something like that. Now, that's been fixed on the Linuxes, and it should work. I mean, whenever I start Vivaldi, the very first thing I noticed, like, oh, look, it's a browser that is basically Chrome, but built in CSS. Because everything is pretty, everything is animated. It's like,
like everyone, of course, in chat right now, definitely having the browser wars when, Lynx is clearly the superior. Hey, XFCE and Susie, we were definitely talking about this, about mouses, chameleons, polishing the XFCE desktop on OpenSUSE. You silly people. I love you only because you're German. Yeah. The appeal for me personally with XFCE is having a blank slate that you can customize. But SUSE has a different idea, don't they?
Well, it's not exactly a different idea. They just want to provide instead of just providing you that blank canvas, they drew a little something on it and they leave it for you to color it in and use the rest of the canvas if you want to draw more stuff on it. And they do have some good tips for people who want to start futzing with XFCE. The Whisker menu is a much better menu than the default one. If for no other reason than it has a little teeny tiny search box at the bottom. Very useful. Now, they do also suggest that you bind the super mod 4 Windows key to open said menu. I wouldn't do that, because that means whenever you want to use one of those keys for a command, menu is just going to pop up the whole time, whether you want it to or not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they do have a little suggestion by the end of the article that says that if you want to use another archive manager with Thunar, they give you exactly all the steps you need to do to it's just basically copy a file, and instead of it being called file roller.tap, just make sure you replace the file -roller bit with whatever. If you don't like to use file roller, I honestly don't understand. I use it all the time.
It works. Good luck with that. I think a lot of hardcore XFCE zealots like myself. Am I wrong by saying if you want all this whiz-bang nonsense, again, not nonsense, if you want something a bit more pretty, it's still plenty fast. Why not install Mate? ?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mate is exactly that. It's.
I kind of felt like, are you guys trying to remake Mate? Because that looks a lot like you're trying to recreate Mate.
The big difference is that XFCE is still a bit more customizable than Mate, at least by default.
Mm-hmm.
Mate has that bit of old GNOME baggage that they only let you change what they think you should change. And with GNOME 3, they decided, no, you've been changing too much, so we're just dropping that right there.
And also, XFCE, like, strangely enough, in 2017, correct me if I'm right, it's still one of the few things you can just throw an infinite amount of separate X screens at, and it's like, I got it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll do it. No issues whatsoever. If you're not using a compositor, LXD can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, those are, I guess, with Mate, last time you tried, it also worked out of the box.
Mate, I think it kind of sort of did. Every time I try Mate, there's always that one gotcha thing with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't scream about it, because if I screamed about it, Mate would end up working how I needed it to work and not how everyone else needed it to work. And that Venn diagram, those circles are very far apart in reality.
There's a teeny tiny overlap right at the edge.
Keep telling yourself out. Hey, man, we're just going to mention this right quick, because this is more of a question directed to you at home. Send us some feedback on this one. Menuconfig.org. Tell me about it, Pedro, because I'm confused.
It is exactly what it sounds like. So if you've ever built your own kernel, and chances are if you're watching this, you probably did, you know what menuconfig is. Ven is loading it up right now. It's good. There it is. It's just a little CLI that lets you configure all of the parameters, what drivers are included, what schedulers you want to use. Everything that's related to your kernel, you can set it through menuconfig. And then you would just configure the kernel with that configuration, and you would build it and install it. But someone figured, you know what? Before people even download the kernel, let's let them configure it. Now, I don't actually know. I didn't go all the way through with this, so I don't know if they just let you download a BZ2 with just the config file, or if it gives you the full kernel source tree. I don't know. But it's probably just a config file.
Kind of having fun. Linux Nerd was like, make menu config. I was like, oh, get off my lawn. Make line config if you want to go old school with it. You do got 45 minutes to kill. That'll do it. I couldn't imagine running it on a modern kernel, but I don't know. If you have some ideas, some use cases for this, we would love to hear them. Okay, what not to do?
Yes, do not do this. If you're a web hosting company, don't do what Windfall did. They are a South Korean web hosting company, and they got hit by a pretty bad exploit, which then installed ransomware on every single instance that they were running. That's their stuff, their client's stuff, everything was bitlocked. So the hackers, originally, they asked for 4.4 million bucks in, however, it's 1.2 billion won, according to the Ars Technica article. But they managed to kind of haggle it down to $1 million. So at least their marketing/PR company, they know their stuff.
Well, the negotiation's definitely a thing. I mean, they could have just sat back and been like, okay, can we have a set price on how many bitcoins you want, not what they're worth?
Yeah. But yeah, no, so then in their infinite wisdom, they decided, okay, we'll pay you that $1 million. And Dan Gooden from Ars Technica speculates that windfall payment by poorly secure hosts is likely to inspire new ransomware attacks. Now, honestly, I doubt they will be successful. It might inspire them to try to. I'm not saying otherwise. But I don't think they will be as successful as they were in this case, because in this case, the company was running a kernel from 2008 and an Apache and PHP version from 2006.
Mm-hmm. Leading
so
me
at that point
to kind of wonder, I mean, what's actually cheaper here, ladies and gentlemen? You know, the 1 million wet, stinky caches, hashtag pinky finger on that, or having a functional, tested backup solution. Maybe a lesson learned on that. However, Pedro, I kind of wish this host didn't have the money to pay them off, because there is no telling how many zomboxes are just floating in that service provider and still are. Now that's back online.
Yeah, they are a web hosting company. The people that, not just their clients that were hosting stuff in it, but other people that access that stuff that weren't directly tied to them. That's also an issue. And at this point, they are basically, they've been burned. They are completely, and no one's ever going to touch this, or at least I hope not. Please don't.
Oh, come on. Give it 2 weeks and... You know, that's definitely a thing. Hey, man, some people had to talk about this, and we decided to kind of pull it up. They're like, my Ubuntu for mobile device post-mortem analysis. Pedro, hit your bullet points, because I can summarize this in one sentence.
Yeah, so Sturm Flipped, as he goes by on the internet, was one of the people who actively contributed to the Ubuntu Touch operating system. And I was reading through it, and he does bring up some good points and some very redundant ones. Namely, number 2, which is the user experience was bad and priorities skewed. Yeah, it was running Unity. That much was implied. And number 6, he says that the life of an app developer was too hard. He actually goes into details describing the steps, the hoops you would have to jump through in order to get your app up and running on the Ubuntu Touch store. That will kill app development on your platform. And without apps, that platform is dead on arrival.
Ecosystem.
Kind of what happened.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Here's the thing, though. You know, Ubuntu is getting ready for that IPO, and I'm just going to kind of miss stuff like this. hands-on head retarded as stuff like this was, though. I mean, Canonical just doing these wacky, bizarre moonshots that, really genuinely had less than a 1% chance of succeeding. They were still kind of neat. Yeah, I know everyone loved to hate on them, and they had a few fans, and most of those people with a lot of those projects just kind of got burnt with this and Unity and all that fun stuff. But they were trying, though, and I've said that multiple times. They were doing something. You might have thought, I was like, that's mental. And, a lot of times it was mental. And they didn't.
No, it was a good idea.
Right.
Have something to compete with Apple and Google on the mobile market. That's a good idea.
But here's the thing. The only thing that can compete with Apple is Google, and that's because they came in second. They came in second after Apple launched that. They were the alternative. They weren't Google. They were alternative to Apple.
Yeah.
That was it. People was like, can we do something other than Apple? And Google walked out and they're like, okay, we'll do the Google thing. We got Android. Check that out. It's open source, but don't worry. Like a few years later, we're going to get kind of janky with the way we do the open source for that, and everyone's going to hate us a little bit. Sorry, that leaked out. Here's the thing. That's it. That's our market. You can't. Nothing's going to get in there at this point. And when I say this point, we're talking 15, 20 years. Maybe something different's going to come along. Not even Microsoft. Let's buy our way into every other single market, which they've done, including consoles, which all right, I'm not a betting man, would have lost money on that one when the original Xbox came out. It was like, there is no way you're getting in the console market. Bought their way in. Yes, they did. They couldn't even buy their way into the mobile market and establish an ecosystem. And the Microsoft Store was comedy, is all that was. There were
still is.
If it's still around, and I know there's going to be but the hardware was really good.
Well, they did buy Nokia. They did have Nokia under their belt. But yeah, no, going back to Ubuntu Touch, Sturmflut also mentions that Canonical went out and created an entirely new graphical server, which no one else wanted to use, and well, just about every single people told them as much, but Canonical's response to those people was, nah.
I'm going to argue with this, and this is me arguing for Ubuntu, which we all know I don't have the best relationship with. I know some people there. I really like some people there. Mir? Not Mir. Wait, what did they call that?
Yes.
Yeah, Mir. We needed a display server for mobile. Because you didn't.
Have done it with Wayland.
Could have, but they didn't. But listen, again, they were trying something different. All right, doing their own thing. The main reason we needed it because you don't want to be running X, because you need it. X isn't a lightweight thing, man.
No.
So
it's not
I don't
slow. It's just very cumbersome.
Yeah, I mean, plus it's like Java. It's backwards compatible with the stuff from 1800.
Yeah. There's a lot of old craft there, but yeah, they could have easily, if Canonical wasn't Canonical and they didn't have the not developed here syndrome, if they had taken Mutter and they had taken not Mutter, Mutter?
Fata?
No, Weston, that's the compositor, and Wayland itself, could have taken those and made it work on mobile. Mm-hmm. They could have, and they probably should have.
I mean, I just want to see Pedro's like armchair quarterback sports show on ESPN, where he sits there and gives you the breakdown of what they should have done. He was like, well, after the fact, it's real easy to tell you how a thing should have went, but it didn't. Okay, that's brilliant. It's not okay, Google. It's okay. What?
It's okay, Uncanny Valley. They say it's an open source virtual assistant project for Ubuntu-based Linux distributions. And the moment I scrolled down and I saw that lady blinking and twitching, it's like, did you ever feel like Mycroft had too much functionality and should have the face of a lady who fell nose first into the Uncanny Valley? Well, then Dragonfire is here for you. And it's got a really neat GitHub project, and they give you some of the available built-in commands. You can add your own, obviously. It can poke Yoda QA and enhanced AML. for the grammar models. So that's
apparently
neat.
this thing parrots is like, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. I'm just what? Okay, I get it. The atomic.
Yeah, it is built in Python, so you will need to have Python pip up and running, and then you just do a sudo pip install Dragonfire, and it's good to go if you want to try it.
I don't know, man. I mean, some people are like, I didn't get a chance to really look at this other than, oh my god. Cloud hosted, locally hosted? How does this thing work, man?
This is local. You can run it on your box.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to Minecraft. You can also have Minecraft running in your background, in the background of your session, like Strider did. And every now and again, it would lock up his box. That was neat.
Strider, we already miss you, buddy. You're screaming Minecraft for 3 minutes, and then Minecraft would go purple and freeze your box. It was great, man. Good times. Hey, people. We're not going to read an ad, but we're going to thank everyone who's helping to make the show possible. I mean, we've been doing it for over a year. It's crazy, Pedro. I mean, it's like people kind of enjoy. Then again, sometimes you ever just hate watch something?
I used to have one of those shows, but then they went off the air. Yeah, but I used to do that, yes.
Well, if you enjoy hate watching us, you can support us so we don't go off the air.
Yeah, you can keep us on because we're that teeny tiny outlet of hate that you get every single week, multiple times a week. You can go to linuxgamecast.com and you hit the support button, and you have several different choices with which to provide us with all that much-needed monetary backing. Yes, our favorite is Patreon, patreon.com/linuxgamecast. You can join the
207 posts just for the beautiful party patrons.
Indeed, and those posts are usually the
we got
early,
Mystery Science Hero 3000. We got the uncut versions. You get those 3 days early. You get a custom RSS feed for a show people don't even know about called the pre-super shows. And on top of that, you get to come hang out with everyone in Discord. That's right. We got a little, it's not super secret, but maybe you want to have a conversation with us where we're at the other 6 days a week. And, there's over 60 of us in there like-minded, and you don't have to worry about people jumping in and getting all triggered and offended and stuff like that. We got an Amazon wish list because we're putting together a new studio. It is slowly coming along, but surely coming along. If you listen to Saturday's show, some financing through the IRS cocking up something. So that's it's going to take a few weeks because government...
And you're also going to have to bleep that out?
No, not really. Not the way I used it. It's perfectly...
Clicking?
No, I am going by BBC standards, son.
Okay.
I can totally get away with that. I mean,
they roostered it out.
Mm-hmm. It's a brilliant thing. We do want to have a little bit of a PSA before we announce a winner of a game, so stick with us. Yes. If you order, because we do have that wish list, which is great. That's just a list of stuff that we're planning on buying. If you would like to expedite the process, you can be like, I like these Yahoos enough. I put them on in the background and whatever. I'm going to pick them this up. Then you end up, we have a wall on Saturdays. It's pretty awesome. Go check it out for the fine, upstanding cannibals. We even get a new host on Saturdays, Frank. Quiet guy, but, he chills out in the back, does his thing. But if you get anything through the Amazons, make sure you do the gift sending option, or don't send it to yourself. We had somebody send it to themselves. Oops. Yeah. I was like, I feel bad for you, son. I do. Mainly because I've done this, but it's Amazon. All you have to do is ring them up, give me a return label, and they'll credit to your account, and they'll just ship it back. Then you can, if you feel like it, redo it. That's the advice. I have to do that because we do it through the Amazons, mainly so we don't end up with your address. That's terrifying. So let's not have that. Week before last.
You don't want Jordan with your address.
No, we don't even keep track of each other's address. So this is not us being cagey. Let's just all be safe and all that fun stuff. We gave away a copy of Slain back from Heck Edition. Had a contest. You just had to tweet not the most recent show, but the week before that, when we announced it, and we wanted to give everyone just a little extra time to do it, we had a couple of people throw it in. And our winner is one Mr. Jason Anderson. Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Anderson.
That's right. That's the sound of it. All right. That's the sound of you winning a free game. I'll get in contact with you since it is a gift item that J-Baby has in his inventory. We'll tell everyone about this on Saturday, too. So he'll have to gift it to you. And it's not too hard to work out. Okay. It's time for some pie.
All that chilling's made me a bit hungry, and there's only a teeny tiny slice of pie, and since Strider isn't here, I'm taking it. So, Intel. You may have heard this bit of news over the week. They announced that the Joule, the Edison, the Galileo, Joule, and Edison's, those different toolkits.
Why didn't they call it the Jolene?
No, because they wanted to go with scientist names. So they are, all of those prototype boards and compute modules and whatevers have reached end of life. People were saying, oh, so they're not competing against the Raspberry Pi anymore. Nope, they still are. You may remember a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned the Minnow Board 3. That one is still in active development and will continue to be supported. And the Curie compute module is also still actively supported. So with those two, still give you some leeway if you want an x86 based prototype board a la the Raspberry Pi.
But aren't these things still wicked expensive though, man?
Yes, they are. Because Intel.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe if you're buying something like that, you're looking at what, like maybe an ATM or
something embedded that you absolutely need that x86 for, and power consumption
really
isn't
fancy
an issue.
ATM.
Yeah.
ATM / Killbot. Okay.
Yes.
And maybe that's it always seemed like way too pricey. Every time I look, even at the billions of other x86 prototyping boards, this is from somebody who has a Pegasus board. Go look at what one of those cost. It's like, no, if I want x80, I don't even want x86 in a small form factor. I guess for the home use, it's kind of hard to justify it when you can go through a fistful of 20s and get a bunch of like Pi Zero Wi-Fi's.
Yeah. And yeah, for $10 you could get the Pi Zero Wi-Fi. Although Asus also had their Raspberry Pi sort of prototype board that was close in price to the Raspberry Pi 3, but it was still more expensive. I honestly don't know, because chances are, if you are doing prototyping and you want something that's actively supported and there's a big enough community around it that anything you're doing, chances are, has already been done or someone's also working on it.
Well, that's
the
another
Raspberry Pi
thing.
is what you're looking at.
Yeah, it's, I think, definitely a better Tinker device. And companies that are doing something with x86 and they're going to do something like that because their sales weasel screwed up and made a deal with Microsoft that whatever, they have to run Windows embedded or whatever, that they got the money to do that, and they're going to spend the money because they want the support from Intel and all this other fun stuff. Okay, that's going to do it for the show, except for a little bit of feedback, right?
Teeny tiny bits, yes. You can go to linuxgamecast.com, you hit the contact button, you fill out the form. Make sure to pick LWDW from the little drop-downy menu. It's pretty easy. Ven's CAPTCHA isn't all that hard to work around, so let us know what you think.
I spent like 3 hours on that. What's your problem?
It's simple maths is all I'm trying to get at.
I had a brain short out the other day because I couldn't. We have 3 different layers of caching on the site because reasons. I was trying to make that work, and my brain was not processing the 0. So I was checking it. Of course, I was putting in 6. And on the third try, I in shame, I stood up and walked out of the studio for 30 minutes and did something.
That's usually the best way to do it. It's don't work with shame.
Yeah, that was definitely a thing. Hey, look who's still around, baby.
Oh, Mr. Sandy. Yes, he actually left us a comment on YouTube last week when we talked about the Qt team with Qt 5.10. They have introduced proper Vulcan rendering inside the Qt framework.
Mm-hmm.
The entire Qt framework doesn't support Vulcan still, but that's for the future. As I said last week, it was the first step, and Sandy says, "What? Wow, right on, Qt dev team." I am correct. Every now and again. Great first step. But it is a very good first step, as I mentioned, but it's a teeny tiny step. It's just proper rendering for Vulcan contexts inside Qt windows. That's basically all it is.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's phase 1, cross-platform, yes, and we're going to get Vulcan all up into things. Why are we going to? Why is that going to happen? Because they're thinking about they're not thinking about it, they're starting to implement it in toolkits. And hey, you know what Vulcan is? Vulcan is sexy, which I didn't expect. I thought Vulcan adoption was going to take a while and there was going to be a lot of grumbling and fighting. So it's too complicated, but a lot of people we've just seen just from the gaming side on that show we did Saturday, tons of people. It's turned into like putting Doom on a toaster. It's like, let's see if we get a Vulcan render for X. Yeah. And the toolkit stuff's kind of blown my mind because you're just like, well, I can do this with Vulcan and we get it on mobile and it works everywhere. Hey, DX12, what's going on? DX12 looks at you, pulls the glue stick out of its mouth, and it's like, I play video game. And it puts the glue stick up.
Xbox One X.
It's like, well, where do you play it, DX12? Xbox, Windows. Oh, any Windows? 10. And that's the end of that story. Last but not least, Chemical one? Maybe?
Chemical 01.
Hard. He writes, hey guys, I've installed Ubuntu in the past, but everyone was giving me expletive deleted. Family-friendly show. Guess who made an edit? This guy. For running it. Thinking about installing Arch. Can I run it full-time? Is it really that hard to use?
Wait. People were giving you sugar for using Ubuntu, and all of a sudden you feel like Arch is the better alternative?
Well, I mean, arguably, Arch is easier to use than Ubuntu.
Arguably, but it's harder to maintain.
Not really, because you just have it set up on a dual partition that you boot about every 3 months, and then you go online and tell everyone that you're a Linux.
Windows,
yes.
Right. But if you want to use Linux properly, you want to avoid that Ubuntu stigma for some reason, try Solus. Seriously, try Solus. It's very easy to use. It's very stable. You don't have to worry about updating every 6 months. It's a rolling release. They don't keep on the edge, the bleeding edge of software development, so most of the versions included in Solus are stable enough for regular use. Arch, on the other hand, you could run it full time, but you would be spending most of that time fixing that one package that just broke your system, and all of a sudden you can't boot anymore.
What is it? Antigos?
Anargos, yes.
Anargos. That's what 99.99% of the people have installed up and running. And listen, you don't get no smack when you install Babby's first Linux, because that's what that is. That is a Tonka toy front end, which runs Arch in the background, reasonably stable. It's going to work on most of your hardware. It's not like back in the day. Yes, get off my lawn time when you had to sit and write your Xorg config file. You know, that's what these people say they've done, which they haven't. And you can obviously tell as soon as you engage them in conversation.
You run Arch Linux.
I think Arch is a great project. You know, we personally love it. But it's kind of with like anything that gets a fan base. You know the ones we're talking about, and the people running Arch right now is like, yeah.
That vocal minority of Arch users.
We know the ones you're talking about. Well, all right, but that's definitely a thing. Hey, beautiful people. It's been fun. We've had a great time talking about Linux. I've been Vinstone. If you ever want to check me out, I'm on Twitter at Vinstone plus Vinstone. Just type in Vinstone. It was kind of funny one time. Pedro was doing a vanity search on himself. Then I heard him and he typed in my name and he was like, oh. And I was like, yeah.
Because if you type Ven Stone into Google, all you get is that guy. That's all you're getting.
Hail Santa.
But me, on the other hand, well, I now show up on the first page of Google. For some reason, my Twitter profile that's @unaccounted4 is on the first page of Google. My Google Plus profile, plus Pedro Mateos, on the other hand, only shows up on the second page. What's up with that?
It's crazy. Hey, it's been another great day for Linux, everyone. Remember, support those who support Linux.
Yes.
And credits. Bye-bye. Well, not really bye-bye, because we always hang out after the credits.
As usual, yeah. But it's, going back to the Vulcan thing, I really want a GLX implementation with Vulcan. I want Vulcan to handle my compositing. I want Vulcan to handle all of the window stuff. I want Vulcan. Gimme.
I want to Vulcan on the things, but I'm sitting back and patient because, you know, I still think we're about a year and a half out before the tools get there to make it where everyone can Vulcan, brah.